I just finished reading this book, Strangers by Belle Burden, and it actually really kind of upset me to the point where I'm out here in a field, needed to touch grass, and I stopped and got a matcha. I feel like a terrible Canadian because I didn't pick up a Tim Hortons, but I love the green tea, the matcha lattes from Starbucks. And I just really needed to get grounded again because this book, I think, brought up a bunch of things that are really frustrating me about what's going on in the world today and how I feel like the life lessons that the Gen X and Boomer women that we went through, those lessons are not being learned and or they're being unlearned, I guess you can say. I guess I need to bring you back to when I was growing up. I saw a few women living lives that were examples of what I said I would never do. I saw women who knew absolutely nothing about their financial situation, or they lived in situations that were so terrible, like so toxic. Their husbands were mean to them and mean to their children, did some terrible things to their children, but they felt that they had no way out. And so they stayed in that really terrible situation because they felt like they had no other options. I saw that firsthand, and I swore that would never be me. Had to get in out of the wind, but man, it sure felt good to sit in the sun on that grass for a while. Alberta winters can be very long. But back to the topic at hand. I guess where I'm really frustrated is because I think that as Gen X women and baby boomer women, we've seen so much progress over the years. And then I read a book like Strangers, where this woman of immense privilege and so much opportunity was taken advantage of. That even she struggled financially at the hands of a divorce. I think that someone with that level of education and that level of life experience would know that they needed to protect themselves. I mean, for the average Joe like me, I had to watch it in real time with the women around me to learn that, okay, I need to protect myself and I need to protect my assets. And I needed to make sure that I would be able to look after myself later on in life should my marriage disintegrate. I needed to be able to put a roof over my own head. I needed to be able to put food on the table. I needed to be able to feed and clothe my children. Did I want to stay married? Absolutely. But I needed to be able to say, even if this marriage doesn't work out, I know I will be okay. We need to be empowered that way as women. Men need to feel the same way, but I'm just addressing women right now. I guess we always kind of hope that we're going to leave the world better than what it was for us, that our kids are going to have it just a little bit easier than what we had. And so when I see that, I kind of feel like things are going backwards. I just get really frustrated. So I want to tell you a little story. The father of my children, we split in 2010, and we never really got divorced until 2013. And this is how it happened. He phoned me and he said, "Hey, I have news for you. I'm getting married." And I went, "Oh, that's great. Awesome. Congratulations. Holy cow, we should get a divorce." And he said, "Yeah, that's kind of why I'm calling you." So at that point, over the 3 years of our separation, we had still been joined financially. He had been not working or working part-time as a teacher, and I had been helping him out with paying bills. Like, we still had joint accounts, all that kind of stuff. So I knew everything about his financial picture. And when the time came for him and I to split financially because he was getting married, we both went to the bank. It was a Canadian bank that I had been with for many, many years, way before him. And I had asked for a loan, and so had he. He had been approved, and I had to prove myself. And I found this so frustrating because I had been the one who had looked after all the finances for the entire 20-some years of our marriage. And I knew all of our numbers. I knew that my credit rating was better than his. I knew that I made more money than he did. I knew that my history with that bank was longer than his. And yet he got approved and I didn't. I was so angry and I thought, this is ridiculous. The only factor here is that he's a man, I'm a woman. That was the only thing I could think of. And I actually even wrote to the bank and put down all the numbers in black and white and said, make sense of this for me. And I went to another bank and did the same thing, showed them my numbers, and they said, how much do you want? And they said that particular bank was notorious for that kind of bias. And I was floored. It was 2013, and I felt we had come farther than that. And as a follow up, that bank that turned me down, about a year and a half later, they sent me a pre approved credit card and a pre approved line of credit that I didn't even ask for. But that was okay because at that point I was heading off to Dubai and the money came in handy at that point. I had moved all my major banking to the other bank that did give me the loan. And so maybe they were just trying to win me back. I don't know, but I was mad. So I guess what's really got me rattled is I wish that over the years things would be getting better. And I'm so worried that young women today are giving away their power. Even a really good friend of mine, I was surprised. She's a teacher as well. She had no idea what her paycheck was. She had no idea how much money she made in a month or in a year because our paychecks are direct deposited and it just went directly into their joint checking account with her husband, and her husband dealt with everything. And I mean, if that is the system that they want to have, then great. But I am a huge believer in know your numbers. And in all honesty, I would love it if every story started out with a couple, they fall in love, they decide to get married, they have their 2.5 kids and a dog, they have a house that they were able to buy, which they're able to pay off the mortgage by the time the kids are going off to college or university. They go into the retirement sunset with financial stability and they get to watch their grandkids, the whole shebang. I wish that for everybody. But here's the problem. That doesn't seem to be reality. Divorce is like 50%. And the bottom line is we need to protect ourselves in a just in case situation. So based on the experiences that I've had in watching other people and my own lived experience, I really want to pass on to young women, fall in love, absolutely, and create that life and have children with a wonderful man. I wish you all the best, but please make sure that you're looking after your needs as well. Make sure that you have a credit card in your name, that you are building up credit of your own. Make sure that you know your numbers. Make sure that you know exactly how much money is coming into the house and what's going out. Sit down with your husband if that is the setup that you have, that he is going to look after the finances, then great. But sit down beside him so that you know exactly what's going on so that you can look after this as well. What happens if something happens to him? You don't want to be in a situation where you don't know even what accounts that you have. I've seen that as well. Make sure that your name is on the vehicles, your house, any sort of assets that you guys own. Make sure they're on the bank accounts because if something should happen to him and let's say he's killed in an accident, just like my friend was back in February, if your name is not on that bank account, you do not have access to that money. So make sure that your name is on the joint bank accounts that you guys use for your everyday stuff. Can he have a bank account and you have your own separate bank account? Absolutely. But make sure the main one is joint so that you have access to it. And if you are going into a second marriage or marrying later on in life and you have assets, protect those assets. get a prenuptial agreement or a postnuptial agreement. Get some kind of agreement, legal document in writing that will protect your assets. You will not regret taking those steps that will protect the assets that you spent years building, protecting yourself and protecting your family. When you get legal advice, be really careful before you go against any sort of legal advice because it's their job to tell you what to do, what's in your best interest. That's what happened in this book. She went against legal advice and she paid the price. And I totally understand where she was coming from because I was in a very similar situation with my last marriage where I had a pension that I was going to commute. And I seriously thought about taking that value and paying off this house that we had just finished building together. And a big part of my instincts, that voice in the back of my head was screaming at me, don't do it. But I wanted to prove to my husband that I was in this relationship and I wanted to show him that I was committed and putting my money where my mouth is. I am so glad I did not do that. And in fact, we both signed a postnuptial agreement right after we got married because he wanted to protect his land and I wanted to protect my pension. And I am so grateful we did that because that is basically what saved my retirement. I guess what's really bothering me right now, too, is I've seen women being attacked from both sides. So, for example, in the book, Belle, she had given up her career basically to stay at home and look after the kids. And another woman said something to her like, well, men don't find you attractive anymore when you're not working. You're not as interesting anymore. So basically being blamed for her husband cheating on her because she wasn't interesting anymore because she gave up her career. So there's that one side. And then on the other side, I see so much attack online these days about how the fabric of our society is falling apart because women are going into the workforce. They're not having families anymore and they are putting career before family and all of that. So my question is, well, can't have it both ways, right? And to me, the whole concept of having equality, it's like having choice. Do you want to stay home and look after the kids? And if you do, then great. If that's what makes you happy, then great. But if you want to work and have a family, then great. If you want to work and not have a family, then great. It's the freedom of being able to make that choice without judgment and without penalty for having made one choice or the other. But what drives me crazy is when we give a young woman heck for wanting to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom because she's not interesting enough, and therefore her husband has an affair on her or leaves her or whatever, versus another young woman decides that she's not going to have a family, she's going to focus on the career. And so then she gets heck as well because she's not contributing to society by raising children. So either way, these young women can't win, that they're going to be criticized regardless of what their choices are. And in all honesty, as a Gen X woman, that was really all we wanted, was the choice, right? We wanted the choice without the judgment. And now it seems like we have judgment regardless of which path we choose. And I'm so frustrated. Well, I think my rant is finished. So thank you for listening. And I'm wondering, is there another piece of advice that you would want to give to young women? I know you're with me, wishing them all the best and that they get to sail off into the sunset. But what can they do to protect themselves should things not go the way they planned? And if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and even subscribing to the channel because it does help channels like mine. And in the meantime, have a wonderful day. Okay, so I think I need to go because people are looking at me wondering why I'm in their field.